I love my life. I notice I tend to downplay that a lot, as if loving my life isn't okay. I wake up every day and I feel great. Feeling great is a choice I've come to appreciate with deep gratitude in my heart. And I've got 3 great kids. They're kind, they're loving, and they're respectful, some of the time. And I'm married now for 16 years, and while we've had our ups and downs, sometimes more downs than ups, we've got a marriage based on unconditional love, respect, and open communication. The thing is, you wouldn't know it looking at me, but my life wasn't always this great. Truth is, my childhood, it was horrific. I'd pretty much wake up every day in a low-level panic. I never felt smart enough, pretty enough, cool enough, and I always seemed to attract someone who wanted to pick on me and bully me. Needless to say, I was always on edge. The funny thing is, actually, it's really not all that funny. I never knew what a highly sensitive person I was and how I was affected by everything and everyone. And my parents, they cycled in and out of depression for most of my childhood into my early 20s. And my dad, he's bipolar, and he had so many addictions, we never knew which one was running him at any given time. I remember this one time the cops came to the house and they confiscated our computer, and I thought, oh God, like, what did this man do now? And I would get this lump in my throat, and my stomach would turn sour like I just robbed a bank and got caught. So it kind of makes sense as a highly sensitive kid that I would want to run for the hills and seek refuge. But the thing is, I grew up in Brooklyn, so the only place I ran to was my fridge. And I ate sugar. And man, I ate a lot of sugar. You see, when you don't have supportive, stable parents, you learn to fend for yourself. So for me, I found sugar. It was my comfort. But actually, we were kind of best friends. It was always there when I needed it, and it never passed judgment. But what I didn't know is that sugar is a legal, addictive substance, and it lights up the pleasure part of the brain the way cocaine does. And I went to Catholic school, and I remember they used to make us sell these $1 chocolate bars. And I could owe $25 like it was nothing. But what I didn't know is that the rush of sugar was lighting up the pleasure part of the brain, but the brain's reward system, which was releasing feel-good neurotransmitters such as serotonin, dopamine, and beta endorphins. And then I worked for the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation, and within 5 years, I got diagnosed with a near ulcer. I remember the pain would be so bad that I would have to take off work that day because once it came on, it would last for hours. What I didn't know is that being addicted to sugar, the stress from my childhood, and just the stress I had on my body, that it was actually causing the gastritis. Then my first wake-up call came. I went to the doctor and I said, look, I don't do meds, but I've got this pain. What can you do for me? And he looks at me and he says, don't worry, I'm on them too. And he took out of his lab coat his own ulcer meds. And it was in that moment that I knew our medical system was broken and that I needed to find a way to heal myself. Then my second wake-up call came, because clearly one wasn't enough. I'm a survivor of a near-death gas explosion. I have 35 stitches on my face and I have a hole in my head. And just 4 months after being married, I was literally blown out of my house and I lived. And I remember in that moment, I decided that I was no longer going to live a life addicted to sugar, and that I was going to start living my life's purpose. So what I did was, I started to make my mess my mission, and I made my problems my passion. And I started to teach women that you could be highly sensitive and you didn't need to turn to sugar for comfort, and that your past did not need to define your future. So I wake up every day and I feel great knowing that I am an example to my children and to all children. And that when a woman knows how to eat well and take care of herself, that she's an example of what's possible and she becomes unstoppable. Thank you.